We have a very important and very sensitive topic to talk about today, and that deals with
dog bites.
That's right.
That's right.
You know, and I joke a little bit about this, but when you stop to think about it, what in the world could be more serious or tragic than a child, especially a female child, who has a dog bite to the face or something of that nature that's could affect the child for the rest of her life. You're talking about something that's really very serious. So
I've seen such horrible things in my 25 years of practice, from young children that literally had their face ripped off, puncture wounds in the arms, the legs, the abdomen. Dogs can really inflict some serious damage.
I want to talk about different factual scenarios involving dog bites and talk about the legalities of them. But before we do that, in New Jersey, let's just talk about the law generally. There used to be a common law prescription that every dog gets one free bite or something of that nature.
Not anymore.
But I said that statutorily that's been abrogated. What's the actual statutory law in New Jersey related to dog bites?
It's almost strict liability right now. And now if a dog bites someone, and the person who gets bitten is either in a public place or lawfully on the owner of the dog's property, then the owner of the dog is responsible for the damages caused by the bite.
Got it.
So only 32 states have that or a similar type of law. The rest of the states have the so-called one free bite rule.
New Jersey, though, is statutorily, though, it's a strict liability offense.
Yes.
In the sense that whether or not the owner was on notice that the dog had that proclivity,
doesn't matter,
or whether the dog was provoked, if the dog bites someone under those circumstances, there's liability.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, we have to kind of match up the liability component with the insurance component, okay? So I want to give you some fact scenarios. I would assume that most dog bites occur inside of the home where the dog resides with the family. Would you say that's true?
Typically in the home or in the yard surrounding the home.
Okay. Let's say that it's something that's inside the actual residence, okay? Typically, what do insurance policies that cover the homeowner provide with respect to protection for dog bites?
Sure. Homeowners' policies cover for dog bites. So, people might wonder, well, if a dog bites someone, how am I protected? If you own a home, or in some cases, renters insurance will carry a component that will pay for damages caused by a dog bite.
Right.
So that's your first go-to right there.
Well, I was going to ask you, is there a requirement that you inform the insurance company, though, that you do have a dog or dogs so they can build that into the premium?
You should.
Okay.
Yeah. And most homeowners' policies are going to want to know if you have a dog, because you may pay a little extra for having that dog. Not much extra.
Could there be a denial of coverage if you didn't reveal it initially because you didn't have a dog, but then during the course of the one-year policy you acquired a dog but didn't tell the carrier?
I've never seen a denial based on that. I'm sure it could happen, but most of the policies have this component for a dog bite anyway, so I would say in most cases that's not going to be a serious issue.
Based on your experience, what would you say would be a good, just to be safe, policy coverage in terms of a dog bite, less any reasonable deductible they would have? Yeah. How much liability insurance should you carry for dog bites?
I think a homeowner should have $500,000 in coverage to start, and possibly some umbrella coverage if they can afford it.
Just specifically for the dog?
In general, because the policy will usually cover the dog itself. So, if the person has a $500,000 in liability coverage,
right,
which would protect people, would protect the homeowner if he's sued by injuries caused by the homeowner or caused by the dog, he's going to have $500,000 in coverage.
Now, with respect to the dog itself, who is covered under the policy that would be in the home?
Okay. Well, the policy protects the homeowner and his family from lawsuit. The policy would extend to any third party on the homeowner's property, lawfully on the homeowner's property, who is bitten by the dog.
Right.
And a question arises, what does lawfully on the homeowner's property mean? If you're a postal worker and you are delivering mail, and you have a right to be on the homeowner's property to deliver mail, and you are bitten by the homeowner's dog, you're lawfully on the homeowner's property.
Right.
So you don't necessarily have to have an express invitation. It could be an implied invitation. If you're a federal or public worker that's called out to the homeowner's property for whatever reason connected with your job, and while you're there you're bitten by the dog, then the policy is going to cover your injury.
So the business invitee is going to be okay?
That's correct.
How about the licensee, social guest?
Yes. All of them are okay.
What about family members, though? I mean, you have, let's say it's mother and father living together, and then you have two children, for example, child bitten. Does the child have an independent cause of action against the parent?
No. Typically, most homeowners' policies are going to exclude the family and the children, the husband, the wife, and the children from making a claim against their own homeowner's policy for damages caused by a dog bite.
So you'd have to have someone who is not a member of the family.
Correct.
Licensee, business invitee, that type of individual.
Or a distant, I mean, it could be a cousin. It could be a member of the family that doesn't live with the immediate family.
Right.
For instance, if a brother or sister, if you're the homeowner and your brother or sister came over and the brother and sister, an adult, was bitten by your dog, you would be covered.
Now, what is the hierarchy in terms of other sources of insurance? I'm thinking particularly here about business invitees. The cable guy who comes to install something on the cable and the dog bites that individual. Is this a comp case? Is it a homeowner's case, or is it both?
It's both. Okay. The cable guy who comes to install and he's bitten while he's installing, he's going to have a workers' compensation case. The workers' comp case is going to pay for his medical bills. It's going to pay for his time while he's out of work, his temporary, so to speak, his salary while he's out of work, and it's going to pay for a lump sum award at the end of the case based on his degree of permanency.
Okay.
Then the homeowner's liability policy is going to pay an award for pain and suffering, loss of enjoyment of life, any difference between what the man was or woman was paid by the workers' comp for salary. For instance, a lot of time workers' comp only pays 70%. So he would be able to collect the remaining 30% from the homeowner's liability policy.
Okay. And is there ever a possibility of getting any punitive damages, or is that beyond the scope of the insurance coverage?
Well, no. Punitive damages are generally beyond the scope because punitive damages typically are something intentional, wanton, and willful,
right.
And a homeowner's liability policy will exclude that because they're only going to pay for negligent acts of the defendant.
Okay. Well, what about if there was recklessness involved? In other words, that the dog was known to be vicious by everybody but was not properly penned up and allowed to roam, throughout the house. For example, everyone knows it's a vicious dog, but notwithstanding that, they just allowed the dog to roam free, and the dog injured an innocent person on the property.
The same strict liability would apply.
But would you be entitled to any increase in the damages because of the increased culpability, so to speak?
You might be entitled to bring a claim for punitive damages based on the homeowner's. Let's say if the dog bit two other people in the past,
right.
And the homeowner knew that the dog bites people, and when the cable guy came over, he let the dog out to romp and roam, and in the course of romping and roaming, the dog bit the cable guy. The cable guy may be able to sue for punitive damages and collect it if he can successfully prove, A, that the homeowner knew of the dog's vicious propensities and that the homeowner just recklessly disregarded it and allowed the dog out to attack him.
Would this be something, though, where there'd be insurance coverage, or is this just coming out of the pocket of
Out of the pocket.
Okay, so this is beyond the scope of the coverage.
Yes, in most cases.